Hello once again, everyone. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, the trees are getting green. I just spent this past weekend, maybe like some of you have, getting my yard all together, getting some vegetables and flowers planted and stuff, and just kind of have this eager anticipation to see it all coming to bloom and getting green and that around my yard. And here we are, just a week away from our last weekend of kind of our formation year as we wrap things up. And so this will be my last kind of preview video for the weekend for the whole summer. I don't know what I'm going to do with all my time through the summer. But I want to give you, as we have been all throughout this past year, a breakdown of what you can expect for our final June weekend for our formation year, and ask some help from all of you as we wrap things up here today. So here's what we've got in store for you this coming up weekend, June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And we're going to start right from the top with the year ones on Saturday morning. It looks like we've got Father John Weckend lined up with you. He'll be talking with you about the sacrament of reconciliation. So I was writing this out earlier today, and I just had on my list Father John Weckend, sacrament of reconciliation. Now, while he may be willing to hear your confessions while he's out there, he's coming out just to talk about the sacrament itself. So we'll kind of clarify that a little bit here. We've also got for year twos on that Saturday morning, modern moral issues with Father Gary Kuntz, coming out to talk about some of the moral issues that we face in our particular context today, and also to provide a framework for dealing with these questions on moral issues as they come up throughout our lives. It's one thing that's particular about our faith, and we'll know even from having read the scriptures and maybe from knowing a bit about the catechism, our church really isn't able to address particular moral problems in every age that may come up. Now, there's some general moral issues that remain constant and that remain constant struggles for us as human beings throughout history. But, for example, our church in the Middle Ages could never have foreseen some of the questions that would come up regarding stem cell research and in vitro fertilization, those kinds of things that are now part of our modern moral context. Nothing in our church could have prepared us for the kinds of moral dilemmas we run into in an age of instant information and ubiquitous global information and sharing of content. So those kinds of things require a more flexible framework that we can build responses on, even when the church hasn't been able to specifically speak about this particular issue or that particular issue. He's going to spend some time on Saturday morning talking with you guys about that. Now, year twos, you're in for a special treat, or I mean year threes, you're in for a special treat, or maybe not a treat, depending on your position. But you get to spend the morning with me, teaching the only class that over these 3 years of my diaconate formation that I'm able to get away with teaching. But it's one of my favorites. It's one that, in all honesty, I think every Christian should be able to take some time to do a little bit of thinking and studying about. It's the discernment of spirits. The discernment of spirits that really helps us to come to a deeper understanding of just how God relates with us. And how do we relate with God? If I could tell you that I could provide you with a way of knowing God's voice, of being able to understand where it is and how it is that God is working in your life, and give you tools to respond to that knowing and that understanding, that would be a great tool for all of us to have. Well, that's exactly what we have in the rules for discernment of spirits that St. Ignatius outlines as part of his spiritual exercises. And this is something that, as I said before, is a valuable tool that really I think all Christians could make use of. And it's one that, as you're wrapping up your time in the lay formation program, that we want to make sure that you're able to take with you out into the world. It will give you a framework, I promise, a framework for doing exactly those things, for knowing and hearing God and being aware of his activity in your life, for being able to understand what it is that this activity of God is drawing you towards, or inviting you to do, and give you tools for making a response to that. And we're going to spend that morning on Saturday doing precisely that together. All right? And I'm going to give you actually a link to some material. I think I'm going to give it to you after we have our session together. But a link for you to kind of take with you and spend more time delving into these rules for the discernment of spirits. So that's your Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, year ones, I've got 3 great friends of mine coming out to spend the afternoon with you. Doctors Susan Johnston and her husband Marcel DeCoste, and one of their former students, Patrick Malone, will be coming out to spend that afternoon with you. And the subject matter is another one that I think is just wonderful for us to kind of wrap our brains around. They're going to be talking to you about forming a Catholic imagination. Forming a Catholic imagination. And very much like I was talking about the need to have a mental framework upon which to build a moral response in the world around us, in this changing world around us. When we talk about forming a Catholic imagination, what we're doing is talking about being aware of the internal framework, the internal imaginative framework that we have within our own selves, upon which we base our worldview, upon which we filter all of the information and all of the aspects of our culture that we encounter on a daily basis. And we do that by engaging our imagination. So that's one aspect of this, forming a Catholic imagination. If I have this imaginative construct within my mind, it enables me to relate to the world in a particular Catholic way. It becomes the Catholic lenses that I can put on, within which I can view and interpret the events of the world, but also it becomes an important tool for me to dialogue with the culture. Now, what do I mean by that? As you've been journeying through this program, that one of our key emphases, and this is in response to the needs of our church here and today, is on evangelization. And both Pope Francis and many other evangelizers, popular evangelizers in the Catholic world today, have been speaking repeatedly about the need for us to be able to evangelize the culture and to form a culture of encounter with Jesus Christ in the culture. And so those are all great words for us to use. The question is, well, how do I do that? How do I do that? Well, one of the key ways that we can evangelize the culture is to have our lenses on, our Catholic lenses on, that allow us to see the good, the true, and the beautiful that already exists within the culture. See, ours is not a dichotomous faith or a Manichaeistic faith. The Manichees were a Gnostic kind of sect in and around the time that St. Augustine was speaking in the church. And they really saw a dualism between the world, which would include the culture, and the divine. They saw really that they believed there was really 2 gods in the world, and they were at war with each other. Gnosticism also, at that time, which Manichaeism kind of sprung out of, Gnosticism also develops this dualistic understanding that there's this sharp divide between the world and the divine, between the culture and what is truly holy. And we don't have that as a Judeo-Christian faith. Our Judeo-Christian faith starts off in the book of Genesis, telling us and underscoring for us over and over and over again through that first chapter of Genesis that the world that God created is good. The true, the beautiful, and the good lie within creation and can be found within creation. And that did not disappear from our Catholic perspective. That did not disappear after the fall of humankind. It became clouded, it became veiled, but it is not wholly and entirely gone. Our world is not wholly and entirely corrupt because of sin. That's a key thing for us to keep in mind. Now, what this means for us is, as evangelizers and as Catholic evangelizers, is that within the culture, we ought to be able to see the good, the true, and the beautiful, to identify it as good, true, and beautiful, and to use those opportunities to open the doorway to conversation and dialogue with the world around us. That's part and parcel of this forming of a Catholic imagination, to be able to look at the aspects of the culture and to be able to say, within there is an attempt to express some good, some truth, some beauty that hints at the divine. This is what St. Paul did when he walks into Athens, and we read about this in the Acts of the Apostles. He walks into Athens and he's spends some time not criticizing the Greeks, not telling them, look, everything you're doing is wrong and you're going to go to hell. What he does is he spends time looking at the culture and seeing the things that they value and the messages that they're sharing, the stories that they're telling. And then he starts to approach them and he says, I have looked around at all the temples, at all the altars you have, at all the priests and the priestesses that you have, and I can see that you are a very spiritual people, that your hearts long for the divine. And I see that within us, the stories that you tell, right? He saw all of this and he knew all of this. And then he points to one aspect of their culture. In the Acts of the Apostles, it's this tomb, this altar that they had to the unknown God. See, they had altars and they had temples to all sorts of gods. And just in case they missed one of the gods, they had this one altar to the unknown God. It was kind of their umbrella to make sure they caught all of the gods and were able to interact with all of them. Paul says, you who are such a spiritual people who are striving for the divine, so much so that you have this altar to an unknown God, I'm here today to tell you about that God, about the unknown God who has broken into the world and is indeed breaking into your world right here and now. This is how we evangelize the culture. And it requires a creative way of thinking. And so Susan and Marcel and Patrick are going to hopefully open your minds to the ways that the good, the true, and the beautiful can be discovered within literature and artwork, and within film. These are the stories that our culture is telling. The challenge will be, can we find hints of the true, the good, and the beautiful within them? And so I'm really excited for you to take part in that. That's for year 1 on Saturday afternoon. Now, year 2s, you get another great treat. I'm going to be spending that afternoon with you in year 2, and we'll be talking about the same topic that I spent in the mornings with the year 3s about this discernment of spirits. I think that you will find these valuable tools for you to carry with you in your 3rd year of the program and beyond that as well. And so we're going to spend time looking at Ignatius's Discernment of Spirits for you on Saturday afternoon. Year 3 on Saturday afternoon, you've got Bonnie Teely Hunt coming to spend some more time with you, this time talking about Mary. And we will have just wrapped up this month of Mary. If you haven't had a chance yet, and I can't believe that any of you would have missed this, but our podcast, Thinking Faith, with myself and Dr. Brett Salkold, we've just finished doing a 2-part series on Mary this past month. And as a lead up to this coming weekend, you might want to spend some time going and taking a look or taking a listen to those podcasts. I think you'll find them quite wonderful, and a lot of the subject matter, especially the one that we did 2 weeks ago with the Anglican and Roman Catholic dialogue about Mary, you'll find covers some of the same areas that Bonnie is going to cover with you as well. So that's Saturday afternoon. Saturday evening, we've got a great treat in store for everybody. Saturday evening, for those of you who've been involved in the program over the last couple of years, you'll know that Saturday evenings we generally would have a special dinner, a special banquet, and wrap up with our fun night. And I'm very pleased to let all of you know that we've made arrangements to have a special catered meal brought in, both for our program and for the diaconate program to take part in. So we're going to have Luther Food Services cater a special roast beef dinner for us in the Student Commons area of Campion College. And that's what we'll be doing on Saturday evening for our dinner right after Mass. And right in that same space, we will continue with our fun awards for the evening as well. So it's going to be a really good evening, a lot of fun for all of us. And I'm really looking forward to taking part in all of that with you as well. Sunday morning, year ones, you've got Bonnie with you this time, and she'll be talking with you about the sacrament of the sick. So essentially through this weekend, year ones, over and above the Catholic imagination, you'll be spending quite a bit of time with these two sacraments of healing. And as you have spent time with Father John Wecken, and then on Sunday morning with Bonnie Teeley Hunt, I think you'll start to see how those two sacraments of healing are related to each other. And are real graces for us, for our church, graced encounters with the healing ministry of Jesus Christ in our church. So I'm excited for you to be able to take part in that. Year two, you've got my boss coming out to spend some time with you. Bob Kowalchuk, who's the director of pastoral services, will be coming to spend Sunday morning with you, year twos, talking about the role of clergy and laity and laying some groundwork and some deeper understanding of how clergy and laity are called to work together to build this church, to help grow this church, both in the individual parishes and in our larger community. So he's going to spend some time with you talking about that on Sunday morning. And year threes, you get me again Sunday morning, me and the whole team journeying with you as we walk through our kind of rehearsal for the commissioning celebration that's coming up the very next weekend on June the 10th. We'll do a quick walkthrough with that, and then we've got a wonderful kind of prayerful wind up for your weekend in store for you. So that's your weekend kind of in a nutshell. Lots of really cool things coming up, and I hope you're as eagerly anticipating it as I am. A few extra notes. I've already made the note to you about our banquet on Saturday evening being held in the Student Commons. I've got another surprise for you right here. I'm going to show it to you right here. Just over the last few weeks, I've had this come in. We have officially got a brand new banner for our program made, our program logo and motto there. This is the banner that'll be carried up at Mass for the commissioning celebration. We just got it in. I think it turned out really great. And so it's another great new addition to our program here for you. So I wanted to make sure that I showed you that as it just came in just last week. So I was really I thought it was cool to kind of have that together. I sent out, the last thing I wanted to talk with you, and you will have got this already, on Tuesday of this week, I sent out an email talking about the ways that you can help in promoting our program. You'll know that our growth in faith and our growth in relationship with Jesus Christ, whether it's through things that happen in our parishes, Bible studies and other parish-based faith formation programs, and community activities that you take part in, all of those things that help us to grow in faith, and including our lay formation program, are never intended to be gifts just for us. Our faith is never just about what it does for me and what I can get out of it. Our faith, this relationship that Jesus Christ calls us into, and all of those things that help us to deepen that relationship are meant to be shared. That's the good news. The gospel is meant to be shared with the world. This is our mission as church, and none of us gets off the hook for this mission as church. Everything that Christ does with us and for us and through us is for his church, for his kingdom. And that's why I think it's so important that all of us are engaged in promoting this particular tool of the church, in drawing others to Christ, in deepening their faith in Jesus Christ, and in deepening their relationship with Christ and his church, especially through lives of service. Those are all the things that we work at together through this lay formation program. And those of us who have enjoyed these fruits, those of us who have benefited from these fruits, we have a responsibility to share this gift with others. So many people tell me, especially after they've taken part in the program, that this lay formation program is one of the diocese's best kept secrets. And I want it to stop being that, in all honesty. I don't want it to be a well kept secret at all. I don't think it should be a well kept secret, just as I don't think the gospel should be a well kept secret. And I spend a lot of my time talking with pastors, talking with parishes, putting together promotional materials. I'll talk with anybody who will sit down for a minute about the awesome stuff that I get to do as coordinator of this lay formation program. But I'm just one person. I'm just one person. And I can't do justice to the great gift that this program is for the church in the Archdiocese here of Regina. So that's why I need your help. I need you to look at within yourself the ways that Christ may be calling you to help spread this good news about this program for the church in the Archdiocese of Regina. And I've given you 3 ways that you can do that. The first way, and probably the way that is most intimidating for people, is being willing to stand up in front of your friends, your family, your neighbors at Mass, and just tell them about the program. To share a brief personal testimony. And by brief, I mean like 3 minutes tops. Literally 3 minutes tops. The last thing we want to do is bore people to tears with something that could be said in a short bit of time. So with a brief personal testimony and an invitation to contact yourselves or to contact me for more information and to register for the program. If you're concerned and you're worried about, I'm not going to know what to say, I have got that completely covered for you as well. I have got a prepared script and a wonderful promotional video that you would be able to use at a parish, either before Mass or after Mass, in about 5 minutes. It's, I think, 5 minutes and 10 seconds it would take to go through the script and play the video, and then just be on hand after Mass to share some brochures and registrations if people are interested in contacting. So I've made it really, really easy for you to do that, and I want you to prayerfully take some time to ask God if this is one of the ways that He's inviting you to share this gift, that He's given you in this lay formation program. The other 2 ways I think really are even more important than sharing. Although the personal witness, if we don't actually open our mouths and talk about this program, these other 2 points aren't going to work a whole lot. These other 2 points revolve around prayer. And prayer should always lead to action. Our prayer should always lead us to action, especially when we're praying about things like this. But prayer is really key for us here. And there's 2 things that you can do prayerfully. The first one is to take some time to ask God who in your life needs to hear about this program. Who in your life is He placing His hand on that you might particularly invite to take part in this program? And so that's what I would invite you to do. And in the email I sent out, I kind of outlined a little prayerful reflection on identifying, not you sitting down and making a list, but simply and honestly asking God to bring to mind a couple of people that really could benefit from this program and that the church could benefit from having them be involved in this program, that your parish could benefit from being involved in this program. Bring them to mind and pray for the courage to approach them and ask them. Pray for that courage to approach them and to ask them if they'd ever thought about taking part in the lay formation program. So that's one way of prayer. The other is to yourselves pray for the ongoing success of our lay formation program. Whether you're at Mass, whether it's part of your personal prayer. In the email, I gave you kind of the way I pray for the program and for others in my life on a regular basis. A wonderful petitionary prayer to Mary using the Memorare prayer, which is one of my personal favorites for intercessory prayer. But taking time to pray for the success of the program. Taking time to pray for those people that God had brought to your mind and that you've talked to, right? So after you invite them to the program, or at least invite them to consider it, spend time in the weeks and months that follow intentionally praying for them, that they too might have the courage to answer that invitation, right? Pray for myself and our formation team, Brenda and Grant and Tom and Cindy. Pray for us as we prepare for these weekends, as we facilitate these weekends, as we listen to the Holy Spirit and create the kind of formation program that our church in the Archdiocese needs. Pray for us for that, yeah, and continue to pray for the success. Continue to pray for the success of this program. Pray for our year threes, our year three participants who are graduating this year. They're going out into the world now with all of this new learning, this deepened faith. So many of them throughout this program have been called to wonderful and exciting areas of service to Christ and His church, things I know that they never would have imagined that they would be doing, and yet they find themselves now doing it with a boldness and a courage. Pray for them as they continue to serve. And I would ask that you continue to keep all of these prayers on.